Right. So in the today's session, we are going to learn about overloading, and we will see about this keyword, how to use this keyword, and then we'll talk about the static keywords, so static variables and static methods in Java. So first, let us start with the overloading. So in object-oriented programming, so there is we have discussed about class and object concept. We have discussed about class and object and their object methods. So along with this, we have one more concept in object-oriented programming called as a polymorphism. Okay, polymorphism. This is another concept we have in object-oriented programming. So what polymorphism will say is, if I create something, suppose if I say a method, let's say if I create a method called m1, so we can use this method for multiple purposes. Not multiple purposes, because sometimes we can just instead of creating multiple methods, suppose I want to add two numbers, or I want to add three numbers sometimes, or I want to add five numbers sometimes like this. So how many methods we require to create for adding these numbers? Normally we need to create multiple methods. So for this we have to create one method. For this we have to create one more method. For this we need to create one more method, right? So what polymorphism will say is, instead of creating multiple methods for multiple combination of data, let's have only one method. Okay, so no. So what here is, what is the concept is, instead of creating multiple methods, right, m1 m2 m3, so let's have only one method which will take multiple parameters. Like we can pass 2 plus 3, we can pass 3 parameters, we can pass 4 parameters, but still here also we have multiple methods. Like same method we will recreate again and again, but one method will take two parameters, the other method will take three parameters, some other method will call for four parameters and five parameters, so on. So what is the difference between the first method and second method is, in the first method we are creating m1, m2, m3. The methods are different. Okay, the methods are different. Each method is taking a different number of parameters, but they do the same purpose. But here, in the second approach, this is our second approach. We have a same method name, but every method is taking different parameters. So this is called as an overloading concept. If I create a same method again and again with multiple sets of input, okay, so that's called as overloading. But what is the advantage we'll get with this is, if I create multiple methods like m1 m2 m3 so on, it will occupy separate memories. So m1 required memory, m2 is required memory, m3 is also required a memory. But if I create only one method multiple times, it will create only one memory. Okay, one memory location it will create, and whichever parameters we are passing, and that particular method will be executed. Suppose when I pass two parameters, it will execute this method. If I pass three parameters, then it will execute another method. So based on the number of parameters, order of parameters, data type of parameters, it will choose appropriate method. So this is called as a overloading concept. Okay, so this comes under the polymorphism. So polymorphism says, just create only one thing and which will assist you multiple purposes. That's the main concept of polymorphism. Okay, create only one thing which will assist you multiple purposes, so instead of creating many things. So this can be called as a overloading concept. So polymorphism is a concept, overloading is an approach by which we can achieve the polymorphism. Okay, so in Java, polymorphism is a object oriented concept. What polymorphism will say is, we can just create only one thing which can be assisted from many things. That's the main concept of polymorphism. But how we can achieve this polymorphism? Through overloading concept we can achieve the polymorphism. Again, we have two types of overload. So we can overload methods, Java methods we discussed yesterday, and we can also overload constructors. So we already covered about constructor concept, right? What is the difference between method and constructor? Constructor name should be same as a class name. It doesn't return any value, and it will automatically invoke at the time of object creation. That's all about constructor. So we can overload methods and also we can overload constructors. So we can use this overloading concept on methods as well as constructors. Okay. So let me just write some notes here. So what is overloading? Overloading means creating methods with the same name. Creating methods with the same name with multiple parameters or with different parameters. So this is the concept of overloading. So creating methods with the same name, all methods having same name, but the parameters will be different. So that's the main overloading concept. So we can create a methods or constructors. Methods or constructors. So the overloading concept will applicable for methods as well as constructor. But here, uh, what is an advantage we will get? One is it saves the memory. Okay, it saves the memory. The other one is it will also saves our time. We don't need to create multiple methods. So same method will create multiple time, but only thing is we need to pass some parameters, different parameters. But here we need to follow certain rules. So normally if I create a class, let me just open one more window. Right, so when I create a class contains methods, right? So for example, let's say a class called as ABC, and in this class I will have multiple methods, right? So what overloading will say is we have to create multiple methods with the same name. That's the concept of overloading. So when I say first method called, let's say, sum. Okay, so this method will take two parameters, let's say int x and int y. So two parameters is taking, we'll implement this body later. And similarly, I can also define one more method called same name. Name should be same, but here we should not have the same number of parameters, same data type parameters. So here we need to follow certain rules, because how will Java will identify these methods uniquely? But suppose if I call the sum method from the main method, which method will be called? So we have so many methods with the same name, but which method it will choose? How it will differentiate uniquely? And here we need to follow certain rules. Okay, so based on those rules, this will identify the exact method. So there are two rules we need to follow. So one is, okay, one is data number of arguments. It will differentiate all the methods by depending on number of arguments or number of parameters. That's the first differentiation. Suppose when I call this sum method, okay, it can find more number of methods here in the class. But how it will choose exact method? Based on number of parameters. The first priority will give you number of parameters. So for example, this is taking two parameter or integer type, and this is taking three parameters. Let's say int x, int y, and int z. So it's taking three parameters, x, y, and z. Now here I'm passing two parameters, let's say 10, 20. Now how it will differentiate these two methods? So whichever method is taking two parameters, so that method will be called. Okay, that's the first preference. So number of arguments it will choose. So based on number of argument, it will choose appropriate method. But suppose sometimes number of arguments or parameters also same. Okay, so here also let's say it is also taking two parameters, but which method it will choose? And second time it will take the data type of those parameters. Data type of parameters. So it will consider data type of parameters. So data type should be different. So suppose here int and x, int y, but here this will be int and this will be double or float. Or the first parameter will be double and second parameter will be int. Or both parameters will be double. Okay, that way we can differentiate. The first one is the number of parameters, and the second one is data type of parameters. Okay, these are the two important things we need to consider when you create methods, when you use overloading concept. Okay, these rules will be applicable for method overloading and also constructor overloading. Okay, so let us see how we can do this through programmatically. So let me just open my Eclipse. So here, this is our Java project. So I'm going to create a new package for today, day 6. Today is day 6, right? Yeah. So day 6. So here I'm going to create, first I will show you method overloading and then we'll see constructor overloading. So let's create a new class. I will name it as a method overloading. Okay, so in this class, uh, main method is there. So let's keep this main method one side. So I will create a few more other methods. Okay, so in the main method overloading, what is the overloading says, like we can have a method which will take different kinds of parameters, multiple entries. So what I will do is, I will create a few methods here. Void add. Okay, so this is the method I'm going to create. So here this method will take int a comma int b. So two parameters taking now, a comma b. Both are int. Number of parameters are 2 and data type of parameters are int. Now here inside this I will write system.out.println. I'll just add these two numbers a plus b. Okay, this is the first method. Now I will also create the same method again and again by changing number of arguments and number of data types. And 4 times I'm writing here. So here int a, int b. And in the second combination, I will just say this is int. I will make this as a double. Okay, now we can differentiate this one and this one. Now the third method, I will make both are double. Now you can see each method is unique. If I consider number of parameters or data type of parameter, every method is unique here. And I will just say last method int c. Okay, so I have created multiple methods here. So every method is a unique here. If you observe this, even if you create the same thing here, it will throw an error. See now, it's saying there is a duplicate method is available. So we have to change this. We have to make sure every method is a unique. So the first method will take two parameters, but one is int, the second is also int. And the second method will take again two parameters, but the first one is int, the second one is double. And third method is also take two parameters, one is double, the other one is also double. And the fourth method is taking three parameters, all three are int types. Okay, I have created multiple methods here. So now let's come to the main method. So what I will do is, from the main method, if I want to access these methods, how to access them? I want to call this method from the main method. How to access them? Can anyone guess? So through using object. So we have to create an object for this class and then we can access these methods, right? So let's create an object for this class, method overloading mo equal to new method overloading. So now I have created an object. So through this object, I can access these methods. Now let us see. When I say mo dot add, now you can see when I say dot symbol, it's giving 4 add methods. See, first one. So whichever combination we need, so that particular method we can select from here. So let's say first time I will just pass 10 comma 20. Okay, now you guys can say which method will execute. This is, let's say, first method. I'm just giving some number to identify. This is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So I have 4 different methods. So now I have passed 2 parameters and both are integers. So which method it will be called? And Navina is asking question. So it is a method name that helps in overloading. So by using the same method name with the different parameters, we are overloading exactly Navina. So that's you are right. So we are calling the same method but different kinds of parameters. Okay, that's the main concept of overloading. So for each combination, we don't need to write the different names. So different methods we don't need to create. If I create different names, and it will occupy a different memory locations. Okay. So to reduce it, we can just have a same name but the different parameters. That's called as an overloading concept. Okay. So now you guys can tell. So if I say two parameters, if I send parameters 10 comma 20, so what is the method it will call? Which method it will call? So I have four methods, right? One, two, three, four methods. So it will exactly call first method. So why it will call first method? First it will look into number of parameters. So I have passed two parameters 10 comma 20. Now in this list there are three methods we have which are taking two parameters, right? Again in these three combinations it will check for the data type of parameters. So both are ints. So in these three methods we have only one method created with int types. So the first method will be called. So this will call first method. Now let's run this. So this will give you 30 as an output. Fine. So similarly, I will also call other methods by passing different arguments. Now this time I'll say 10 comma 20 comma 30. So three parameters I'm passing now. So in three parameters, we have only one method in this list. That is the fourth method. So this will call fourth method. Now run this. So this is also giving, why it is giving 30? Because we haven't added C here. Plus C also we have to add. So now run as Java application. Now it gives you correct output. And similarly, I'll say mo dot. I will pass one. One is integer, the other one is double. So I'll say 10, and second parameter I'll say 20.5. Okay, first one is integer, the second one is a double. So this will call exactly the second method. So because second method will exactly match with this. So let's say 2. Okay, so this will give you 30.5. And what is left? Third method. So when I pass two doubles, mo dot add doubles, two doubles, so 10.5 comma 10.0. So I'm passing two doubles. So this will call you the third method. Okay, so 20.5. So this is how we need to use method overloading. So we can create a methods, same method name, but number of parameters and data type parameters should be different. Okay, remember this, because in next sessions we are going to discuss about method overriding. There is another concept called as a method overriding. So people will confuse here. Method overloading, overriding, both are completely different concepts. So just for now, just remember this method overloading. So method overriding we'll discuss later. So method overloading means we can just create methods with the same name by using different parameters. Okay, that's a method overloading. And we need to make sure number of parameters should be different and data type of parameters also should be different. So that's a method overloading concept. So I'm just sharing a small presentation here. Now you can see here. So this is concept of method overloading based on data type and number of parameters. So based upon number of parameters and data type of parameters, so those methods will be called, required methods will be called. Okay. So now let us see constructor overloading. So we have another concept called as constructor overloading. Constructor overloading. So what about constructor overloading? So in the method overloading, we can create any method. We can just give any name to the method, right? But in constructor, we have to give the same name, like whichever class name we have given, the same name we have to give to the method also, right? So if you do the constructor overloading, it will be like this. Let's say a class called X. Okay, so suppose XYZ is my class name. So the constructor will be like this, right? So the constructor name will be XYZ. I can create multiple constructors like this. Okay, so again we need to follow the same rules. The data type parameters and number of parameters should be different, and then the constructor will be uh, considered as unique. Okay, so this is constructor overloading. There's only small difference between this one and the method overloading. Suppose if it is a method overloading, we can have any name to the method. So let's say ABC, some XYZ, so some M and O something. Okay, so here the different, sorry, the same method name, right? ABC and ABC. So in the method overloading, the method name can be anything, but the same method name we have to use for all the methods. But here, constructor overloading, constructor name must be the class name, but we can have any number of constructors here. Okay, that's the difference between method overloading, constructor overloading. So now let me show you one example for constructor overloading. Let's close this. I'll create one more class. I will name it as constructor overloading. Constructor overloading. Let's take main method. Fine. So this is a main method. Let's keep one side. So I will create a few constructors here, multiple constructors. So as I said, constructor overloading. This is the same method name. Again, we have to use method name same. So constructor name should be as the same name as a class name. So this is the first constructor. And here I will pass two parameters. Both are int A, int B. So again, I will just add these two numbers. System dot out dot println. I'll just say A plus. And same constructor again I will create with multiple combinations. So let's say this is two parameters. This is also two parameters but double type. And here I'll say double. And this is int. This is the again different parameters. See now, what is the difference between these two? Here two parameters, here two parameters. And but here data type is different. Here the first parameter is int, here the first parameter is double. Okay, here the second parameter is double, and here the second parameter is int. We can also differentiate like this, and we can also create one more. Let's say int b, and also I'll create int c. Okay, so here I will add c also. Fine. So I have created multiple constructors with the different number of parameters and different number of data types. Now, if you want to call this constructor, how we can call them? How to call constructor? So we don't need to create any object for them. Okay, so we just create an object, automatically it will invoke. So we don't need to call explicitly, unlike a method. Okay, so just I create an object for this class. Constructor overloading CO equal to new constructor overloading. Okay, observe this carefully. When I create an object here for this class, it's giving an error. So new constructor overload. Why it is giving an error? So by default, this will invoke a default constructor. But in this class, we don't have any default constructor. What is the default constructor? If a constructor doesn't take any parameters, that's called a yes. If method doesn't have any parameters, so that's called as a default constructor. But we don't have a default constructor in this method, in this class, so it is giving an error. So we must pass some parameters here, unless until it will not allow us. So here I'll just pass two integers, so 10 comma 20. So now this command automatically invokes the first constructor. So this is the first constructor. Let us say this is 2 and this is 3, this is 4. So this will call a first constructor. So if I want to call another constructor, we must create another object, or we can pass parameters here itself. So for example, here I'll pass 3 parameters now, 30. So first let us execute this, 10 comma 20. So now it gives a correct output. So now if I say 30 here, this will call fourth constructor, because there is only one constructor which will take 3 parameters. So this will call fourth constructor. And if I say 10.5, this is a double, and the second one is integer. 10.5 is a double, 20 is an integer. So this will call third constructor. So 30.5. And similarly, you can say this is a integer and second parameter I'll say a double. Run as Java application. Now it will call this method, second constructor. Okay. So this is also called as a overloading concept applied on constructors. Method overloading and constructor overloading. Okay. So guys, are you clear what is overloading, how to achieve method overloading and constructor overloading? So this is a simple concept. Now I have one question too, guys. We also have the main method, right? So in your class we are also having the main method. So main is also a method just like other methods, but we can overloaded methods like in the previous example. So we have overloaded methods, but main is also a method, right? So can we overload this main method? Can anyone guess? Can we overload this main method? Can we write multiple main methods in the same class? So can we overload these main methods in the same class? And the answer is yes, we can create the main method again and again, but we have to change the syntax. Okay, we should not create another main method with the same syntax. We should change the syntax, okay? And number of parameters should be changed. In those cases, we can overload main method. Okay, so let me just show you one example. So overload main method. This is an interview question. Okay, so just remember this. So overload main method. I will just say overload main method. So this is a actual main method. Execution will start from here. I will write code later here. So for now, I'm just creating few main methods. But here I said a definition should be different. So here I will create a main method. Let's say public void main. So this public is optional. Okay, this is access modifier. So we don't need to have this public, or if we have, no problem. But we can also have, we don't have the static keyword, okay, because static here having a different functionality. I will just talk about this in few minutes. So don't consider this static. So public void static. But whenever we create a main method, we should not use these three combinations. Okay, public static void. Static is removed, right? So no problem. Now this main method is take is a one parameter. Let's say it take one parameter. Let's say x. And here I will just print that parameter, system dot out dot println of x. Okay, so this is the first main method, and I'll also create one more main method. Let's say public void main. So this time it will take two parameters. Let's say int x comma int y. So here it will add two numbers, system dot out dot println x plus y. Okay, this is another main method. So this is the actual main method. Okay, so Preeti is asking question, will the execution start from the default main method always? Yes. So always Java is look for this syntax. So you can have any number of methods in the class, doesn't matter, but always JVM or Java virtual machine is always look for this method, this particular method. So Java itself is written like that initially. Okay. So Java will understand only this particular main method. So wherever it finds this, the execution will start from here. Okay, that's mandatory thumb rule. So now, so we have created two main methods, and Uroshi is asking question, and these methods should be created before static main method. No, you can also have this method after this. The order of writing methods are not important in class. So within the class, so you can create methods anywhere. Okay, but these methods should be outside of main method. So don't worry, don't confuse here. One method should not contain another method. Okay, each and every method is independent. So this main method is different, this main method is different, and this is the actual main method. Okay, remember this. Okay, so And this main method also can have in another class. Yesterday we have seen, right, this main method also can be there in another class, then we can call this main method. So one more thing, so these methods can be created before actual main method like this, or we can create them after main method like this. The order of creation of methods are not important. So in wherever you have created these methods, so always execution will start from the main method. Okay, remember this. Okay, so I'll create here. Fine. So now here I have done two main methods. I have created two main methods. One main method is taking one parameter and the second main method will take two parameters. Okay. Now how to call these main methods now? How to call these main methods? So we must create an object. Okay. There is no other way. So let's create an object for this class. Method overloading. Overload main method. So let's say OM equal to new main overload main method. Okay. So now using this object, I must call these two main methods. So I'll just say om dot main. Now you can see here it's giving three main methods. This is actual main method, but along with this we have these two methods. So we can call these two methods main. Here I'll just say 100. And what this will do, it should print the value of 100. So this will go and store in X and it is printed that value. So this will call first main method. Let's say give some number to this. This is the first one. This is the second one. So this will call first one. Similarly, om dot main, I'll pass two parameters. So let's say 100 and 200. Okay, this will call second main method run as Java application. Okay, so this is how we can also overload main method. Okay, so Navina is asking question: can we access methods of one object in another object? Can we access methods from one object in another object? No, Navina. Each and every object is independent. I said, right. So there is nowhere related. So just remember the yesterday's concept again. So we cannot do that. So every object is independent. As I said yesterday, this is a class. Let's say this is your class. Okay, class contains variables and methods, right? M1, M2, M3. So as soon as you created an object, let's say this is object 1, this is an object 2. So as soon as you created object for this class, this object will acquire its own copy of these variables. That's ABC, M1, M2, M3. So these are all different. And object 2 is also acquired its own copy of this class. Like again, it is also getting ABC, M1, M2, M3. So these objects are nowhere related. Okay, everything is different. But we can share classes, yes. So the class, based on the class, we can create any number of objects. All objects are derived from the class, but these objects are completely independent. There is nowhere related. Okay, this having its own memory location. The object 2 is having its own memory location. We cannot club these two together. Okay, so no, even though the publics or variables are public or methods are public, we cannot access between these two objects. So these access modifier public means we have another class, for example. Okay, so let's say this is class 1, this is class 2, and now these variables and these methods can be accessed in another class. In another class, this is the context of public. Okay, so if I create one class, we can access those variables and method in another class, which this is a different class. But within the objects we cannot club these two together because these two are completely independent. Okay, now you got it why public works. Public is different context. When I say public for these variables and methods, these variables and methods can be accessed in another class but not an object. Okay, so that's the context. Public, I'll talk about these access modifiers in the coming session. See, public is an access modifier. Okay, public says what is the scope of that variable. So from where and where we need to access that, we can access that variable. So that is basically decided by the public. So we have private, public, default, protected. There are some access modifiers. Okay, so I will talk about in the coming sessions. There are 4 access modifiers. For now, just remember public is a simple and access modifier. If I say public, that way those variables and methods can be accessed in any other class, in any other packages and everywhere, almost everywhere. Okay, so public is a completely very high level. Public, we have a after public we have a protected, we have a default, we have a private. So these access modifiers will restrict the access levels. Suppose for example I don't want to access these variables and methods in another class. Just I want to make them as a private. So in that particular case I cannot access them in another class. Okay, suppose I want to access only this class and this class, I don't want to access them in another packages, and then I can make it as a default. So in that case we cannot access them in another packages, but still we can access them within the same class. So this is again a little bit a huge concept, so it will take again one more session. Okay, so I will just talk about coming sessions. So just for now please ignore this. Okay, so public means as an access modifier, it will just restrict the access levels. So more than public we don't have any other access modifier. So public is a very high level, means we can access those variables and methods in within the class, outside of the class, within the package, outside of the package, everywhere in the project. Okay, that's a public. So where are we now? So we are discussing about the main method, right? So this is about the main method. So can we overload the main method? Yes, we can overload the main method. Okay, clear everyone? So now I'll move on to the next concept, very important. Now we are going to discuss about the static keyword, and before that I will also going to show you this keyword.